we all share the same big assignment. So big design is about having a big assignment, I think. And I think it's nothing less and nothing more than we try to make a society that matters, which is, of course, you can have a lot of interpretation on, of course, a society that matters. But that's exactly the point. The point is that there's a lot of choices you can make, and there's a lot of kind of reference what a society kind of makes meaningful for a citizen. But that's exactly all the aspects you have to kind of like make explicit to also kind of make citizens understand what we're aiming for with society as a whole. But this big assignment, I really like it. I really like to become involved in something big, as where in the beginning in 1990, when I started thinking of innovation methods, I was mainly thinking about innovation methods underlying kind of product design, which is for me something completely different as kind of designing for society. But the crucial thing, of course, in this making a society that matters is in the word making. And in that way, I see you, so I don't know how you feel, but I see you as designers. So also Jonathan said, so you are leading change, and you are leading change by putting things into the world. And I think that's a very powerful instrument you have. But putting things into the world is not something you just do. That's the whole issue. I think, and what kind of interests me is if I can help you in how to put things into the world that beforehand you already know that it is meaningful for society. So how to avoid taking too big risks in kind of like putting things into the world that maybe might not work. So that's kind of going back to the first slide I showed you. So how to avoid that we make mistakes. And of course, it's impossible to avoid to make mistakes, but I think we can reduce the number of mistakes we make. But again, it's about making, and making is so it's so much different as kind of like just decision-making processes or having a dialogue or having conversations. Making is literally, okay, we put it into the world and then other people start using it. That's funny. And if it's a policy, if it's a service, it doesn't matter. Those people need to understand what's all about and what you as kind of like a society or as an organization are aiming for with society. So the good thing is that also in the field of design, what I already mentioned, so when thinking of design, you maybe immediately think of that design is about making things, yeah? But 30 years ago, there were a lot of psychologists who became interested in the field of design, and they kind of turned everything upside down in a good way, because they said, people, design is not about making things. Design is about understanding the type of impact you want to have on people. That's the crucial thing about what design is. So true design is understanding the multiplicity of impacts you want to have on people. That's what you need to design first before you kind of start trying to develop all kind of services or products or policies that you think of kind of might do the job you think is appropriate to put into the world. So if you do not make explicit what kind of impact you're designing for, therefore you can't even assess the things you put into the world. And I think when you work, you do this because you're kind of working for society. In design, not a lot of people do this. So when thinking of a chair, they become preoccupied and they immediately start designing another chair. But they don't first start with, but what type of experience do I want to kind of design for with this chair? Do I want that person to feel like a king, or do I want to feel that person to feel like a family member. And that makes a completely different chair. So again, the good thing is that kind of the knowledge of putting things into the world now kind of addresses first the type, how you design for impact, how you design for behavior, action, experience, before you start thinking about the means itself. And the other thing is, and I think that's a really important thing, but not often incorporated when you think about kind of coming up with ideas on what impact you want to have. The thing is, of course, and that must be the same with your kind of practice, that if you just go back to all the projects you do, it takes a lot of time, I think, before the idea you had, before you really kind of were able to put it into the world. So maybe even for complex kind of like issues. So when you think of a completely new idea on taxes, for instance, before you have implemented it, you're maybe 5-10 years ahead. And of course, the crucial aspect here is the idea you had like 5 years before. Is it still a relevant idea for the type of impact you want to put into the world? So the thing is, what I try to say here, that innovation in principle is something you have to kind of empathize with a future. So our future is our reality, not today. And that's a little bit strange. And it's also kind of like a paradox, because when we start kind of doing research, we often start with kind of going up in the real world, and we ask people what they like or what they dislike, if they feel comfortable or maybe overpowered by some kind of services of the government. And then we say, okay, this is not good. So we need to change it. But of course, that change is related to an analysis of the current world. And what I'm saying is that kind of analysis of the current world or the present world, is that kind of appropriate to start with as a starting point for understanding what impact you would want to put into the world. And I think no. And that is something, because I think we use a lot of kind of innovation methods that relate to, interviews with citizens, tests with citizens. So it is something. So again, what I'm saying is, it's the future we have to identify and empathize with. It's not today. There's maybe an interesting, so in the Netherlands, we had this fantastic kind of example about the digitization of the medical information of citizens, which was decided on 15 years ago to make it, of course, digital, which was not a very bad decision, but they completely forgot that the relationship of the information completely changed in the last 15 years. So now we have a big debate. So who is the owner of that information? And therefore, this whole system is not working. And I think that's exactly what I mean. So it's not about kind of like trying to make things the same in a different way with other technology, but it's like understanding, but it's about information. It's about intimate information. What's the meaning of this information in the future world? And we need to adapt to that future meaning of how information has a role for citizen in the future world. And therefore, we should kind of develop another type of system that kind of like allows citizens to safeguard their information on health, on their health situation. And I think, so when looking at the future, I think that's so interesting, because for me, there's a big difference as kind of like, so I was starting with saying that we're all looking for a world that matters, a society that matters. So it's something we look forward to, we look ahead to, yeah? So it's something that's in the future. And for me, it's really important to make that world in understanding what we would like to see happen instead of to solve problems of today and to distance from the problems of today. That's such a big difference. So, and I truly think that kind of by solving all problems of today, we do not make a better world. I think it's so much more interesting to say, no, this is what we are aiming for. And if this is what we're aiming for with the impact we want to have on our citizens, this is what we have to start developing. That's something completely different as saying this is not working today and we're going to kind of improve it, or we're going to kind of like make it work. So again, this is an important mindset. And I think the SDGs, in a way, are something, so you can kind of interpret them from both sides. You can say there's a lot of problems in relation to the SDGs, or you can say no, these are really kind of like interesting challenges. And because they use the word goals, for me, it's something they kind of like see as meaningful in the future, something to aim for. And I like that.